cloud. Yep. There
Okay,
you
good
go. I'm
show.
so sorry.
No worries. Hi, I'm Renee Hobbs, and we're talking about new literacies. That's the theme of your conference. And I've been thinking about new literacies for about 30 years because I'm kind of old enough to be a grandmother of a couple of the new literacies. But you know what? Sometimes this is how I feel. And give me a shout out if you feel that way sometimes too in the chat. We're having a little parallel conversation in the chat. What happened to the old literacies, right? And because I was an English literature major at the University of Michigan, right? Reading is a core of my identity, right? And only many years after I became a reader was I ever feel empowered enough to be a writer. But does anyone know what is the oldest of the new literacies? Little time for you to put some ideas in the chat. What is the oldest of the new literacies? We've had new literacies for 50 or 60 years now. Which is the oldest? Jonathan has a guess. Manya has a guess. What is the oldest of, oh, another guess from Galileo. Very nice. Okay, so, well, let's go on a walk through history, shall we? Since your conference theme is new literacies, let's go on a walk through history. The oldest of the new literacies is visual literacy, because the crazy artists and educators and librarians up in Rochester, New York, hosted the first International Visual Literacy Association in 1969. And when you go look at their program, you can see all the seeds of why it was a new literacy, as they were looking at teaching poetry using images, as they were thinking about commercial television and what kinds of images came into the living room, as they were thinking about the technology that was changing as cameras became more portable and less expensive and less technical. And they were even thinking about what it might look to teach visual literacy in the elementary school, high school, and college classroom. Isn't that cool? Renee, can you make me co-host when you get a chance? I will try. I didn't think that I could. I think my only choice was host, Lucy.
There's some limitations. So I can't post it's not letting me post in the chat to everybody. I can only post in the chat to
Really?
So perhaps if you can give me, I don't know if you can see me as an attendee and give me permission to post in the chat to everyone.
Oh, okay. Good idea. Lucy Harrison.
Yep.
Panelist.
Yep.
How do I give you permissions? I can say you can chat with everyone.
There
Ding.
you go. Perfectly.
I
Thank
figured
you.
it out. Good
All
show.
right. I'll put your links in there. I got it.
You rock. Okay,
Got
cool.
it.
So International Visual Literacy Association is still going after all these years, and they're thinking a lot about photographs and graphic design as texts, right? Next up, of course, is information literacy. Many of you are right. You thought information literacy might be the oldest of the new literacies, and you're practically right. Way back in 1977, that term was being used, but certainly by the 80s, with this important text, Information Literacy Revolution in the Library. And of course, this concept has a robust and hugely important role in the new literacies movement. I myself was completely changed by the marvelous work of the ACRL community, who developed this information literacy framework. These key ideas: authority is constructed and contextual. Information creation is a process. Information has value. Research is an inquiry process. Scholarship is a conversation. And search is strategic exploration. These ideas have transformed my practice as a researcher and as a teacher. And they are a very vibrant and important. They have transcended the library community and moved out into the whole world of scholarship and of education practice. Now, the media literacy community has long had a bunch of great debates. And in 2012, that was a long time ago, 12 years ago, I tried to capture the big tent of media literacy with this graphic design, where I suggested that media literacy aims to both protect and empower. So media literacy
Renee,
is, yes, yes,
I
yes.
hate to do this to you. I am
I
not
know.
currently seeing your slides. I don't know if anybody else is, but I'm not seeing your slides.
Oh my
You can
gosh.
see them. Okay, you can, so it's just me. Never mind.
Everyone
We're
can
good. It's
see
just me.
them.
Everybody
Everyone
else can see them.
can see them. Okay, good, good that
Now
you.
I can see them too. I gotcha.
Oh, good show. There we go. Yeah, so I made this picture because I wanted to capture the idea that media literacy tries to protect people from the worst aspects of media culture, right? And tries to empower people to use media for all the best that it has to offer. And the community is got a dialectic relationship between protection and empowerment. You're of course aware of how important it is for children to be protected from things like pornography and violence and scams. And you're also appreciative of how much kids can learn from media and popular culture. So this concept of expanding literacy has brought its own vocabulary with words like open access, multitasking, creativity, identity, curation, and play. And it's brought some words that relate to the protection orientation around like addiction and disinformation and propaganda and surveillance. So expanding the concept of literacy in relation to media literacy has given us a whole rich vocabulary of concepts and ideas that are part of becoming media literate. Now, the National Association for Media Literacy Education has found that in just the past 5 years, media literacy has become part of education legislation in 18 states. So if you live in one of these states, you've got some empowered right to teach media literacy. And each of these states is like a little laboratory, because what they're doing with media literacy in Massachusetts is different than what they're doing with media literacy in New Mexico. What they're doing in Illinois is different than what they're doing in Delaware. What they're doing in Texas is different than what they're doing in California. So that means that about 5 years from now, we will have some really great evidence of which state practices are most effective in advancing media literacy. And that should be good evidence as you think about the role of media literacy in education in Georgia. But you know, it's true what teachers say about media literacy. They say it feels so big, so broad that it's overwhelming. And boy, I think you're going to feel that about the new literacies as well. And of course, the challenge still remains. It's not considered a core subject. It doesn't appear on report cards. It's not part of standardized testing. For the most part, it is implicitly treated as an extra or non-essential topic. And until very recently, the same could be said about information literacy. But in many states and in many places, you are finding your way around that, which is exciting and important. Now, there's another new literacy that I want to talk about. That's critical literacy. Critical literacy is thinking about media and meaning in relation to issues of power. So Nelson Mandela's quote is really interesting here. Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. And I put a picture up of the, the whole book ban thing, which you guys have been living and breathing for a long time now, because actually the advocacy of librarians to support intellectual freedom is an exercise of critical literacy. And we understand the personal courage that public librarians and academic librarians and school librarians have faced in recent years. For example, librarian Amanda Jones received death threats and was harassed and bullied after speaking out against book censorship in her Louisiana town. So critical literacy makes the bold claim that literacy is an exercise of power, and that people who are literate can confront and challenge power. And that's really powerful. And then, of course, I want to talk about news literacy, which is a huge part of the new literacies movement. And oh, aren't we so proud of the University of Washington and their annual Misinfo Day at the two universities in Washington State. So Washington State has a really strong media literacy law, and the work of these university librarians in developing this initiative is fantastic, and could be modeled by university librarians all around the country. Then there's this concept called digital literacy, which kind of tries to do some synthesis of all the new literacies, thinking about how literacy involves cultural, cognitive, constructive, communicative, confident, creative, critical, and civic people who use technology to share meaning. It's a cool idea, digital literacy. And now we're hearing a lot about AI literacy. This is a screenshot from an organization called Digital Promise. And Digital Promise suggests that there's a set of questions we must use as users of AI. As AI becomes more important, we need to ask questions about transparency, safety, ethics, and impact. And I'm really excited about the future of AI literacy. So, that was 5 minutes and a whirlwind tour of the history of new literacies. But here's the interesting thing to think about. The old literacies didn't go away when the new literacies evolved and changed. Actually, the topic just got more and more complicated. And that's a good thing, but it's also something we struggle with as educators, researchers, and librarians, right? Visual literacy is still important. Information literacy, media literacy, critical literacy, digital literacy, news literacy. Well, think of it this way. Literacy is a moving target, and it changes in response to changes in media forms, media genres, media platforms, technology, and society. So what we've got is a moving target, which has really important implications for our work. But, and this is the only slide that I'm hoping that you remember and that you stick with. I created the image with AI. Yes, I did. And it's a little bit wonky, but I like it, right? I like it. My creative contribution there with the help of AI. I identify that all the new literacies have 3 things in common. They all use the word texts to refer to the symbolic forms used to convey meaning. They all use the concept of authorship in reference to the people and the platforms and the processes that are used to construct meaning through symbols. And they all use the concept of literacy to refer to the sharing of meaning that happens when we use symbols. Symbols like language, images, interactivity, sound, music, and more. So actually, although the new literacies kind of squabble and fight and claim superiority and, all of the things that people do, the deep themes that bring the new literacies together, these 3 are really unifying and powerful for the new literacies community. And boy, isn't the work timely and important, right? As we deal with issues of virality, fake news, and now generative AI, right? So I want to invite you to think about which of these media-related challenges in 2024 are most relevant to your work and life. All right, I want you to think about which media-related challenges in 2024, which of these 6 is most relevant to your work and life? Polarized political climate, propaganda and disinformation, centralized power of platforms, media and mental health, news avoiders, or AI and the knowledge economy. Wow, that is tough. But if you go to this website, Mentimeter, and I think the link is going to be in the chat, or use your phone and take a picture. Tell me, rank order these. Which is most relevant to your work and life? All right, let's see if I can stop the share and now reshare a new screen here. Which of these is most relevant to your work and life? Join Menti, use the code, and let me know which one is most relevant to your work and life. Oh, hold on here. I've got to I've got to share the right screen here. Oh my gosh, you're doing it. Woo! Ladies and gentlemen, I'm so proud of you. Look at this. The list is dynamic and forming as you make your vote. The list changes. Which is most relevant to your work and life? Wow. Mm-hmm. 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 Boy, oh boy, in the chat, we could have a great conversation about why you're prioritizing this way. And of course, you're prioritizing this way because of the reality of what you see and hear in your family, in your community, in your workplace, in your country, and in the world, right? So these issues are relevant to academic librarians, school librarians, public librarians, and all citizens, all of us, all across the country. I want to talk to you a little bit about my priorities and some of the rich resources that I've been able to tap into as an educator, as a researcher, to address these important challenges. So I'm going to go back to my slides. There we go. I'm going to play from the current slide. Of course, the most important project that I want to talk about is my project called Courageous Rhode Island. In response to the rising political polarization and the fear and hate that can lead to violence, we worked with a team to create courageous conversations on topics like conflict entrepreneurs, free speech, hate speech, and censorship, the influencers, going down the rabbit hole, preventing violent extremism. And what we created really is a dialogue and discussion program for adults, college students, and even high school students with a variety of collateral materials that can be used to create respectful and trusting conversations that build active listening, reduce defensiveness, and promote media literacy competencies. And we've got some really great empirical evidence that it works. So in the next year or two, I'll be publishing some research that shows that when you have dialogue and discussion programs with adults and with college students, that opens up these kinds of topics for meaningful dialogue and discussion, that the impact is real. Active listening skills get created, defensiveness gets reduced, intellectual curiosity, we measured it, and it goes way up when you participate in a dialogue and discussion where you can listen instead of shout, right? When you can be curious, not furious. Now, my concerns about polarization and propaganda and disinformation have gotten me deep into understanding and trying to wrap my head around the role of algorithms in personalizing entertainment. And on this slide, you can clearly see this is not my Netflix. Definitely not, right? This is not my Netflix. This is Joshua, is Netflix. He's my son-in-law. He likes things like Shameless and Surviving Escobar and Beyond Stranger Things, right? And Breaking Bad, right? My Netflix looks completely different. And yet we live in algorithmically personalized worlds of entertainment. And you experience that, you public librarians, you experience that on the front lines in terms of the increasingly narrow, algorithmically curated entertainment worlds that your patrons inhabit. But algorithms also personalize information. I love this political cartoon that says, I love getting my news online. You can pick and choose until the world is just the way you like it. And you know what? Look what's on my kitchen table, right? The world, just the way I like it, right? And I think every one of us is living in this kind of community right now, and that has implications for how we learn and how we vote and how we understand ourselves. And algorithms also personalize persuasion. Take a look at this political cartoon. It says he's at his screen and he's drinking some Yum Cola, and then he sees try Yum Cola Max. These targeted ads make me feel like I'm being watched. Ping. And the new ad shows up, protect your brain from intrusion, tinfoil headwear, only $9.99, right? If you've ever felt like your technology is listening to you, it creates a kind of paranoia. And algorithms personalize persuasion. And most of the time we like that. Ads are more relevant. We see them as more like information, but there are implications to personalized propaganda, personalized persuasion that is super important for us to address with our patrons in all the settings that we work. And a really important issue for us to bring to our communities is understanding the role of the technology platforms. Do you know, when I show a slide to my students, they say, well, where's Walmart? Walmart is the biggest company in America, right? And it's like, oh no, honey, Walmart is a pinprick next to these giant corporations, right? Look how tiny Disney looks, right? Compared to the other ones, right? Look how tiny Comcast looks next to these big ones, right? Comcast owns NBC. So understanding that we're living in a technocracy, which is a society that is dominated by digital platforms, and understanding the implications of that for work, life, and citizenship, that's an obligation that we have for our patrons. And now it's been called surveillance capitalism. That's a term used by Shoshana Zuboff in a great book on this topic. And that's one way to talk about it. But you know, I'm often dealing with undergraduates and even high school students and even middle school students. And I like to remind them that you are the product whose attention is sold for profit. You are the product. Your attention has market value. And helping people understand that how they allocate their attention, that's the scarce resource in an information age, isn't it? Your attention is the scarce resource. How people profit from your attention, that's something everyone needs to understand better. So now, here's another multiple choice question. We go back to the, let's see if I can stop share and go back to the Menti. I think this is how I do that. What happens if I go forward? Now you can answer this question. Do your patrons understand algorithmic personalization? Your scale is absolutely not, no, not sure, yes, or of course. Weigh in on the matter, will you? Think about your patrons. Do they understand algorithmic personalization and the economics of the attention economy? Vote now. Of course, it would be great to have data on this, wouldn't it? And that's something to think about, right? Wouldn't it be cool to have some information? Wouldn't it be great to have a multiple choice test and give people a test and see what their understanding is? But right now we just have to look for clues. And that's what you're doing, right? As you answer this, you're kind of thinking, what clues did I get from my patrons, from my students, from my community, from the people I touch and influence, right? Even, by the way, my coworkers, right? We get information about whether we understand this concept from a lot of different sources. It's something we need to really dig into in the future of this work. Okay, so, but guess what? You, the library community, are doing that. And I want to call your attention to these two great resources. They're conveniently located on one page. In 2020, the American Library Association, working with an IMLS grant, developed a really great guide for library practitioners called Media Literacy in the Library, a terrific resource that lays out a little bit of where the opportunities are. They cover everything from book clubs to film viewing and discussions to bringing in journalists into the library to making media with teens, you name it. They came up with a beautiful list. And then in 2024, because media changed so fast, right? This Media Literacy for Adults Architecture of the Internet is a program guide for how public librarians can support, and maybe academic librarians too. I'm not sure. I think it's mostly focused on public librarians, how public librarians can support citizens gaining knowledge about the technocracy we live in. And it's got really great recommendations, even for things like, what do you do at the reference desk, right? Where are the informal learning opportunities at the reference desk to help people understand the architecture of the internet? I love this guide, and I feel like this guide has a lot of implications for innovative practice, and hopefully librarians are taking advantage of that. I'm going to give you two stories before I let you go, because I had the great opportunity to go hang out with the Salt Lake City Public Librarians last year. And they're doing all kinds of cool things. I love their program called 12 Minutes Max. It's in the auditorium, and it's an ongoing series. So local artists perform or present short works in a variety of media, including music, dance, film, and spoken word. It's a community. It's celebrating authorship at the community level, but it's expanding the concept of authorship to include performance and multimedia work. I just think that's a terrific community contribution. And then, of course, I love their teen room. Their teen makerspace has a Thursday zine program, right? Where you can meet local zine artists and you can make your own zine. That's a great way to turn from a reader into a writer, right? And that's really what literacy is about, reading and writing combined together. Now, I hope you read my book, The Library Screen Scene. I'll give you a little preview of coming attractions. What's in that book? Well, it's all about film and media literacy in schools, colleges, and communities. And it's got media literacy in school libraries. It's got YouTube librarians. It's got school libraries transforming their practice, celebrating Banned Books Week, and making movies in the library. I'm able to find about 200 librarians in schools, colleges, and communities, and I tell their stories in this book. Oh, and now I go on, but let me talk to you about the Digital Literacy Initiative at Virginia Tech. Oh, academic librarians, I hope you are familiar with this work. It's absolutely amazing. The librarians at Virginia Tech got together, formed a study group, and then went crazy with a set of initiatives that started with themselves, what they needed to learn about digital literacy, but then quickly spread out to the faculty and the students and the community. I'm going to show you a couple examples of it because I'm so jazzed and proud about what they accomplished. Here's a video they made about digital literacy.
What is digital literacy? Great question. Some people say digital literacy is learning computer skills, but it's about so much more. Digital literacy can be discovering online sources for your research paper, or the best local taco truck, evaluating articles about politics, health, and trending news, asking ethical questions about the things you create, and not being a jerk online, recording, writing, mixing, researching and creating for work, school, and most importantly, your passion. Communicating your ideas to the world and collaborating with others from the group chat to the shared doc. Choosing the best tools, platforms, and places to be. Plus, keeping all those files manageable. And most importantly, it's about you. Figuring out how to be the best, healthiest, and happiest you online and off. So yeah, digital literacy is so many things. The digital world is a big place, and there's a lot to learn, create, fight for, and enjoy. Come explore what digital literacy means to you, the university libraries at Virginia Tech.
Oh my God, is that not gorgeous or what? Wow. So when you go to their website, they share some, basically some activities that they like to use with their undergraduate students. So they've gone way beyond the one-shot, let's learn how to use the database, right? They've got a session on Google yourself to think about your online identity. They've got make a pitch video to communicate a message and select library resources and develop your plan. I also like the work that's happening at the University of Arizona and their beautiful LibGuide on AI literacy. And I think we're still trying to figure out, what does it mean for us to support students and faculty and our colleagues' understanding of AI literacy? It's a hot topic right now, and I'm sure it's hot in your school library, your public library, or your academic library. Me, I'm an old school girl, and I told you that at the very beginning, but I do love what the National Council of Teachers of English has done to help us understand the core pedagogies of what they call media education. And that's another umbrella term, another new literacy, trying to unify across all these different new literacies communities. It says just like there's three concepts I told you about before: text, authorship, and literacy. In this document, they say there's three pedagogical practices: close reading, creative expression, and dialogue and discussion. And I think about that and I go, yes, that's basically everything I do. It's basically everything almost every teacher does, right? Exploring representation and power through critical analysis, empowering voice with writing, speaking, and self-expression, and increasing relevance by critically examining digital media and popular culture, building the connection between the classroom and the culture. So media literacy involves asking critical questions about what you watch, see, listen to, and read. It means creating media with an appreciation of its power and influence, and with a sense of social responsibility for the work that you put out into the world. And actually, now that AI is happening, we're having another kind of creative opportunity. I don't know if you've ever used Human Generator, but it's out there. You can go to this website and you can create hyper-realistic full body photos of people in real time. Okay. And here's what I asked my students to do this spring. I said, create some AI characters, interact with the Human Generator platform, create at least 2 characters, then reflect on what you noticed about the process. Consider how your choices were structured on the platform. Write me an email that explains and illustrates the choices you made. Then reflect on the experience. After completing this experience, what new questions come to mind? So it turns out that playing with AI generator and making bots can actually activate intellectual curiosity. And that's something I think is very important for me as a teacher to develop, and for my students to experience the thrill, right? In the process, they all come to the same place. They say to me, Renee, I can create an unreal reality. And I say, yes, that's what language, media, and technology lets us do. Language and media and technology let us create unreal realities. And this slide shows an old technology or the monster thrown up on the screen. It's just light and shadows, right? But language, media, and technologies have been creating unreal realities far before there was any audiovisual technology at all, right? Words create worlds. And yes, film creates worlds of unreal realities, authentic and real. And whatever sci-fi or action or horror movie you went to 2 weeks ago and or saw on your Netflix creates unreal realities, but so also are the unreal realities created by our relationship books. And you know what? There's something really empowering and scary about this, right? These tools of communication and expression are so powerful. They can create unreal realities that bring out the best in us or bring out the worst in our humanity. So how are you preparing your patrons to be both protected and empowered from the unreal realities that media and technology creates? I think asking critical questions about media as a creator and as a consumer helps us address the unreal realities that are all around us. All right, that's why digital and media literacy matters now. I'm going to stop my share and I'm going to open it up for questions and comments. If you go to the, we have a few minutes, we have hardly any time for questions and comments, but if you have questions or comments, I'd ask you to place them in the track. Will the recording be available? Ooh, great question, Lucy.
Yes, the recording will be available. We'll make that available. And I put the link to all of the resources that Dr. Hobbs used a couple of times in the chat. We do have one question in the Q&A. Renee, I don't know if you can see that, but I can read it out here. It is, what do you do when your state library system is at odds with ALA? Yeah, I was wondering if it was just for me, like the last time, but everything appears to be frozen here as well. So let's give it just a moment here to see if she figures out and is able to come back in. Long arm of Atlanta, yes. Is she coming back in? There she is. There you are.
That was weird. I went away just at that important moment.
Yes, it was almost like it was planned. Like I'm not going through a tunnel, can't hear you. Anyway,
I'm gonna suggest 1, 2, 3. 1, listen to the critics. Listen to the critics and try to understand. You know, there's a saying in the dialogue and discussion community is that only when people feel listened to can you be heard. Only when people feel listened to can real dialogue happen. So go listen to those critics and try to understand their position, right? It might be that you have some common ground, even though you might differ on a lot of things, there might be some common ground, and that's where you can build on. So I think listening to the critics and finding that common ground is important. And then I think the second thing is use the power of communication to tell your story, right? And then the third thing is build communities, right? Build communities, build coalitions, right? So those 3 things go a long way, but start with the first one. Try to understand your critics. What's another question you have? We have time for maybe one more question, 1 or 2 more questions. In the chat?
In the chat or in the Q&A.
Or in the Q&A.
Not seeing anything else coming in.
That means I answered all their questions. Yes, I did. Experiment with the AI tools that are available to you. Make connections between the new literacies. And the other thing I would probably, a piece of advice I think is useful for me and librarians yourself, because you're surrounded by too much. Be strategic and make choices. I can't be an expert in all the new literacies, right? But I have chosen the ones that appeal to me most, and that's where my expertise lies. So don't eat the elephant all in one bite.
Good advice for sure, and especially since I think we all said that I don't that the political landscape and the way that we're sort of all mad at each other all the time was like the #1 issues. And somebody said earlier in the chat that mental health really should be prioritized #1. And so make time for yourselves to have some downtime and to give yourself the space and the grace that you need in order to function in this new world that we're all still learning about.
Nice. Lucy and Joy, thank you so very much for inviting me to participate in your community. I hope our paths cross again. But I guess something exciting is coming on next. So Lucy, I'll give you a chance to get that next one ready. Bye-bye.
Thank you, and lots of thanks and appreciation coming in for you in the chat. Everybody, as a reminder, we're getting ready to close this session out. All of the links will be in Sched. So if you haven't done it already, log into Sched and you should see the links popping up about 10 to 15 minutes before each session begins. Thank you so much. We appreciate it, and we'll see you. Oh, Renee, actually, we do have one more question if you want to take one more, if you have a moment. Which is, what are a few AI tools you've had your students explore?
Oh, yeah, of course. Well, it used to be called Bard. Now it's Gemini and ChatGPT. And then also I love Canva AI. Canva AI is amazing. And because it's embedded, it's free. Start with that one.
Excellent. All right, we're going to leave it there. Thank you so much, everybody. And we'll see you in the next session in about 12 minutes. All right, bye-bye.